Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. I'm Michael Miller with Miami's Community News, and our guest today is Tina Brown, the CEO of Overtown Youth Center. Thank you very much for being here, Tina.
Thank you for having me, Michael.
And your smile is wonderful.
Thank you.
And you look so calm today.
I feel calm.
Good. So first, tell us about Overtown Youth Center.
So the Overtown Youth Center is a nonprofit organization that's been serving the Miami community for the past 20 years. Our primary goal is to bridge educational, social, health, and economic gaps. Long story short, our goal is to ensure that our children and families in urban communities could thrive.
How much more important is that for people that live and work in the urban core versus the kids and people that work in the suburbs?
I think what we like to say is that many of our students and families in the urban core, they have the ability, many of them don't have the resources, and our work provides a plethora of supportive services and resources so that children and families in the urban core can reach their full potential. The only thing that really separates or segregates or differentiates, if you will, children and families in the urban core versus suburban communities is the economic status. We find that many of the children and families that we serve are, between that $30,000 to $40,000 income bracket, and in Miami, it's just not sustainable. Yes. We provide hope. We provide a lot of opportunities so that the resources are there.
So you're obviously very familiar with the Miami Foundation, and the Miami Foundation honored you and 9 of your area colleagues. And so you were recently named a Saltwater Fellow, first time this was created. And you and your colleagues throughout the county were given a grant for $100,000, $50,000 a year for 2 years.
Yep.
So congratulations.
Thank you.
Why did they pick you?
I'm still trying to figure that out.
Rachel, she's got them fooled. Is that what? But really,
I think, in all honesty, I've been working in the community for 20 years. I am a Miami native. I think a combination of my lived experiences, my commitment to community, my passion for the work, and the impact that I've had over my 20-year career at OIC Miami has truly sort of helped me to stand out in this community. I think, when I think about why me, sometimes we ask that question. I think about, potentially what Miami Foundation was looking for in terms of having leaders like me to be able to provide the expertise, to share knowledge, and to gather amongst a group of phenomenal other leaders so that we can deepen our impact. So everything that I've given to Overtown Youth Center and to the Miami community, that doesn't need to just live with me as a leader.
So the Miami Foundation was looking for people that worked at striving out racial equality. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't help but notice that all these Saltwater Fellows are African American, working and trying to get things even. All right.
Yeah.
Now, you know a lot about numbers because you have your undergraduate in accounting and your MBAs in accounting.
Yep.
So how did that experience and that mind of yours, all right, help you provide racial equality for people in Miami-Dade County?
I think everything comes down to numbers. I think when you look at some of the stats here in Miami and you realize, not even just in Miami, just globally, right? When you think about where or the lack of resources that typically or the disparities that you see in African American communities, like the math doesn't always math, right? And so when you think about providing racial equality, and you think about the number of Black leaders in our community and the number of families that they're touching it represents a large portion of Miami-Dade County. And I think that that's sometimes often underestimated, right? We're touching, 1 in 2 families in Miami.
I was having a conversation along this line with a fellow, and I said to him, very open in a conversation, and I said, I was interviewing this guy, and I said to myself, I said, for a black guy, he's really successful. And I'm open enough about myself. And I said, why am I thinking that? I said, I own it, that I should be able to know people all throughout the county, throughout the area that are successful. And he said something about what you did. He said, Mike, it's also our responsibility to showcase people that are successful.
Yeah.
So that the little kids that are out there, look at your Uncle Joe, or look at, I can be like that. So the work that you do is pretty important because it's generational.
It's generational. I mean, the work that we do, you can't even quantify the impact. I mean, we always say it only takes one. You change the life of one child, one family, you impact the lives of thousands for generations to come.
So, Dr. Tina Carroll Scott, she runs the South Miami Children's Center around the corner.
Yep.
She makes reference to the patients. She left a pediatric practice many years ago to move here to help take care of South Miami residents. She refers to the patients as those people as their family. It's not the child. The child is part of this whole globe issue here. So you have the immediate family, and then you have this huge extended family. So when you help little Johnny right there, you're helping his aunts and his uncles and his neighbors. Tell us some of the challenges that you have when you're trying to fulfill what's inside here and make a difference. What are some of the challenges that you have, Tina?
I think oftentimes working in community and urban communities, particularly in a nonprofit space, some of the challenges that we find is that, there are not enough resources for the magnitude of services that are needed to help families be whole. And when I talk about that, I talk about even just basic need things, right? Like, housing, food. Our work is large in part around bridging educational gaps. But a kid can't go to school to learn if they are hungry, right? A kid can't learn effectively if they don't have stable housing. And so what I find some of the challenges to be is that this work, it's not just straightforward. To your point, when Dr. Scott says, they're my family, the people that we serve in Overtown, they are our families, but we have to go deep. And what I mean by that, it's not just tackling one thing, it's tackling all of the social determinants of health to ensure that families can be healthy all the way around. And that's sometimes daunting, but it's rewarding when you see that you've been able to make transformational change in their lives.
So why did you change from accounting, right? To this?
So I actually started my career at OIC as a director of finance. So I was still in I was still doing accounting. And then my predecessor left and she was like, who?
Anybody want this job?
Right. I always tell her to this day, you set me up. But the beautiful thing is that, I had a love for the community because I grew up in the community when I took the job. That was like, that was really the deciding factor. Like, hey, this is my community. This is home. And not only can I use my technical expertise, I can also serve as a role model in the community that I grew up in.
So how do you stay passionate and motivated when sometimes you look at your clients, your families, if you will, and you look at what they're going through?
Yeah.
You ever sit there and want to cry and say, here's what's happening with these people. What can I do to help them?
Oh, not at all. I mean, you think about some of the situations and they are challenging and sometimes you have a tendency to feel sorry, but I know the level of resilience of people in urban communities, but I also think about all of the success stories, right? The child who had never left Overtown and started dancing in our program for the first time and developed a love for dance, and went off to New World and graduated college, and now is living in New York, right? And then calls back.
And straight from Overtown.
Right, and straight from Overtown, and then calls back and encourages some of her other friends from the neighborhood to move to New York, right?
Wow.
And they were once all a part of, the Overtown Youth Center, having had the same struggles. And as a result of first generation college graduates, now I see a whole lineage of individuals and their families that are now going to college. That is what keeps me motivated about this work, right? So when other people see, the struggle, I see the potential.
So people can, by the way, they can go to your website, oycmiami.org. They can go there, they can see some photographs. You have some programs that are up there and see some things that you do. Mm-hmm. So what would you say are some of your challenges that you deal with every day? And how looking forward, how are you going to make the challenges make you do a better job?
Some of the challenges I see every day now, after the pandemic, it's a completely different employment market. I see inflation, in fact, affecting a lot of, the children we serve, the families we serve. And I see inflation affecting the way people show up to work. While I think there are so many people who are passionate about serving community, I think it's becoming harder and harder to live in Miami. I think it's becoming tougher and tougher to navigate a lot of things just because of the rising cost of rents and food and things like that. I also see in Overtown gentrification happening, and that's happening in a lot of urban communities in Miami. And how we plan to deal with it is really understand, how is inflation really impacting our children, our families, our community, how these evolving communities are affecting our work. And my plan is to pivot, right? There are a lot of communities like Overtown. Our work can be transplanted anywhere. We have an amazing group of partners, volunteers, donors, key stakeholders. And my job is really to convince them that, OYC is integral now more than ever, and will need to play an important role in the landscape of how we transform communities. And so we will pivot. We will expand our services into other neighborhoods, just like Overtown. And we will continue to understand the challenges of our children, our families, and our communities, and we will adapt our programmatic services to meet the needs.
How far are you from Biscayne? How many blocks?
Probably 10 blocks.
So you are in the shadows of all those buildings that cost a fortune.
100%.
Right? And really in the shadows of them.
Oh, yeah.
Not just figuratively, but literally.
Right.
When your clients, the little ones and their parents, say, here we are struggling and living in this one-story apartment building, and right over there is a 60-story apartment building, and starting at $5 million a day, $5 million a day, $5 million for the apartment. Have you had clients talk to you about the disparity there?
I mean, disparities are really a conversation amongst, our staff, our key stakeholders. The families that we see, they're trying to survive. And our goal is to not have them look over there to compare or to complain about the disparities that exist, but our job is to show them the possibilities of potentially one day, maybe you can live in a $5 million condominium, right? our job is to provide them with as many exposure and enrichment opportunities so that they could, maximize their full potential here in Miami. Disparities are going to always exist. But what we're doing is helping them to understand that, while you may or may not be able to afford a $5 million apartment, we're going to get you closer to being economically self-sufficient so that you can thrive. And maybe it's not 5 million, but maybe you can go to Liberty City or Miami Gardens and buy a home. Maybe you can buy an apartment in Overtown.
So where is it? How can they see that and learn and know somebody that has done that so they could say, be like so-and-so? How do you get them exposed to that?
Well, number one, we have our own internal success stories of individuals who have, grown up in Overtown. They've gone off to colleges. They've made some really nice careers for themselves. They're purchasing homes. They're coming back. They're donating. They're giving back in their own community. And they're showing them that if I could do it, you could do it. And I am personally one of those examples. I grew up here. I went away to college. I got a degree. I'm working here. I'm very proud of my family. If I could do it, and I say that all the time in layman's terms, if I can do it, you can do it, right? And so we show them examples all the time of people who were once just like them.
April 1954, there was a runner, his name was Roger Bannister.
Okay.
Roger Bannister's coach said, Roger, this is what you're going to do. I want you to run a quarter mile, do it in record time. Next week, do the second one, record time, record half mile. Do your third one. So he did 3 quarters in record time. His coach called out the media and said, today, Roger Bannister is going to break the 4-minute mile. It's never been done before, but he is going to do it. And all the doctors said, you won't be able to do it. You can have a heart attack while he did it. And that first year, within the 12 months, a score of people did it. And now it is commonplace. And sometimes we just have to know that it can be done. And that there's that possibility. And so you and your team are instilling in some of these people that little bright light that they can hold on to.
Absolutely.
When did you realize that you had that ability?
I realized I had that ability, 12, 15 years ago when I saw it happening right before my eyes. I saw the talent that needed to be cultivated. I saw what providing holistic and comprehensive services meant to community. I saw young people reading on grade level, graduating high school, going off to college, and really becoming the role models and mentors that many of our community members were like, wow, they did it. I saw it a long time ago. With our first graduating class. And I continue to see it every day, that it is possible. Our community sees it, and they are thirsting for those services that will help them get there.
So you're still very passionate and very emotional about it. Congratulations on that. How does the Overtown Youth Center get funded?
We're primarily funded by grants, and we also raise about 50% of our annual budget, through individuals, events, corporations. So we're funded both publicly and privately, and through some state and federal opportunities.
We know that there was a lot of COVID money floating around for a couple of years. How did the expiration of that money affect you?
I think a lot of people stepped up during COVID, particularly to assist vulnerable communities like ours. And I think when people started to get involved during that pandemic period, they realized, and some for the very first time, they realized what we were doing in Overtown, and they decided to continue supporting our organization. And throughout the pandemic, we were really able to shine in a lot of ways because we were agile, we pivoted, and people had known us to be, educational support services and family support services, but then we became a food distribution site, right? And so people connected and resonated, and saw our leadership, our founder, Alonzo Mourning, out on the curb every day serving meals, and they saw me and they saw our team. And, I think the expiration of a lot of those funds, was detrimental to a lot of organization, but what we saw was that, our mission and our vision was amplified, which helped to continue a lot of that funding for our organization. And like most nonprofits, it's a struggle because, writing grants, it's hit or miss, right? Yes. You win some, you lose some. But I think that a lot of individuals have connected with our work. My hope is that, or I would have hoped that some of the state and federal funding would continue, because believe it or not, people are more impacted now than they were before. There were those short stints of support, but now, individuals in my community who were once paying, $500-600 for rent are now forced to pay $2,000-3,000. And so while there was some temporary relief, there's definitely a long-term strain on many of our families.
Tell us about how services you can't provide, but that your clients need help. What is it you can do for them?
Now, again, we provide educational support services. We're getting more into the workforce development space because economic sustainability is a key priority. And particularly after the pandemic, health services, right? Ensuring that people are healthy. Now more than ever, we're seeing a lot of people, and I'm sure Dr. Scott sees this every day in her practice, suffering with mental health, behavioral health, illnesses. And so for us is we are providing educational, social, health, and many other supportive services, but economic sustainability is at the forefront of everything that we're doing right now.
Michael Phelps a couple of years ago went on TV, he was being paid to do a commercial about mental health.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, wow, look at that.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's Mental Health Day.
Mm-hmm.
And then what you realize is that it's our responsibility to take the conversation about mental health and bring it up here so that there can be a conversation. Mm-hmm. Because unless you can sort of deal with that, all right, the whole family suffers tremendously. Yeah. And so one of the things we also recognize when people are not feeling well and they're having some disruption to their psyche, lots of times their addictions sort of kick in, whether it's food or alcohol or drugs or whatever else might be there. Can you refer people to agencies when you're talking with them and say, listen, you just told me here's a problem for you. Can you get them some help that way?
Absolutely. We provide a lot of supportive services from, mental health supportive services, substance abuse supportive services. The beautiful thing about our work is we partner with a lot of amazing partners in our community because we can't do this work alone. That old adage, it takes a village. In the nonprofit space, it takes a village. It takes community commitment. It takes the partnership of a lot of key stakeholder entities and organizations. We need schools. We need healthcare organizations. We need the corporate sector. We need everybody to play a role in the well-being of our communities.
Let's go back to your schooling. So you go get your MBA in accounting, and then you did that for a while. Where did you do that?
So Savannah State University is where I got my degree.
Right. And when you went to work as an accountant, I'm trying to guess your age. Did you go directly here?
No.
Okay, you had something in between.
Yeah.
So here's a question: we're in this very ethereal world that we live in. How did you wind up going there? Did you know somewhere in there that one day you wanted to lead something like this?
No.
Yeah.
When you're studying accounting, you're only, people only talk to you about, oh, go work for Ernst & Young, go work for a CPA firm, you're working in the corporate sector. Never had anyone ever talked about the nonprofit sector.
So how did you go from being an accountant, if that's a term, or from, right, to working in the financial end of this agency? You could have gone to work anywhere to do that work.
Yeah.
So
So in my spare time, I volunteer a lot with a lot of different organizations. And so I volunteer at my church. I volunteer at other church, providing accounting services. And I was volunteering, helping a church with some accounting services. And someone just said, hey, my job is hiring. And I'm like, where do you work? And I was at the time working for a CPA firm. And they said Overtown Youth Center. And I'm like, wow. And I couldn't sleep. And I knew
the calling was there.
The calling was there. And
so it's not an accident.
It's not an accident. It's not an accident. I had no knowledge of working in nonprofits, none at all.
And here you did.
I did. And before going there, I started a youth group in my church, and that program that I started was specific to, helping kids get to college and showing them that if I could do it, you could do it.
So Tina, here's what I would like to offer to you. That one day, and you can arrange with Danny, with Michelle over here. You come over here and bring one of your clients, somebody that you've helped, and they're going to speak their piece about this.
Okay.
And I think it's something that's our obligation to do that, to show people, listen, this is how this works.
Yeah.
All right? So just arrange it with Rochelle. She'll figure out a time that works. I can either, and we're still alive right now, by the way, host it, or you can do it.
Happy to.
All right?
Happy to.
And if you wanted to bring two people, that's fine. If you want to bring one a little older, a little younger, one a boy, man, girl, all right, so people can relate to that. I think it's important. Of course. And as we get older, we realize it's our obligation, not just our responsibility, but in a very big sense, it's our obligation to help when we can.
I would love to. I mean, a big part of what we do is really telling our story and showing our successes.
And I know that people must have helped you along your way.
Absolutely.
So what I'd like you to do is look in this blue camera over here. Michelle's going to put it right on you, and you're going to talk to those people. You mention them by name if you want to thank them, that's appropriate, whether they're with us or not. So you got 1 minute, go for it.
Number one, I want to thank you, Michael Miller, for giving me this opportunity. But I want to really thank all of the people that have imparted their wisdom, their knowledge, their care, their concern in my own personal life. And because of those people, Mr. Carr, may he rest in peace, and all of the mentors along the way. Thank you. Thank you, Carla, for believing in me as a young leader in our community to really make an impact. As a result, I have a responsibility to pay it forward. So I vow to dedicate the rest of my life to ensuring that I can help some young person and some family in our community to reach their full potential. Thank you to the Miami community for all that you do, not just for me, but for our organization, our students, and our families.
Wow. I hear you loud and clear. So again, we want to thank the Miami Foundation for what it does and what it did this year. They committed over $1 million.
Absolutely.
Right, $1 million, all right, to organizations like yours.
Yeah.
The Overtown Youth Center. People want to help out, they can go to your website, give you a call, or just show up and say, here, I'd like to spend the afternoon. Can I help you out? Absolutely.
I mean, all those ways. Go to our website. And I'd be remiss if I did not thank the Miami Foundation. It is because of the Miami Foundation that, my voice, my impact is being amplified in this moment. And it is because of leaders like Rebecca, who recognizes the importance of Black leadership in Miami. So thank you, Miami Foundation. Thank you for, your cutting edge programs and this fellowship. I believe that this is going to be a game changer.
Tina Brown, thank you for making a
Thank you.
difference and for sharing. Again, folks, thank you for joining us. Remember, take care of yourself.